Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the June 2nd meeting of the Facilities Committee to order. Next, we have approval of the agenda. I think we have one change to the agenda, and that's the removal of the capacity discussion. We're not quite ready yet to have that discussion. Cropper and McKibben are still working on the capacity study and the enrollment forecast, and they hope to have those done in the next few weeks. So does anyone have anything else? Okay, then I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Thanks. The next is the approval of the April 26 meeting minutes. I have a couple little changes. Under the 5-year capital budget, we're about 3/4 of the way down. We're talking about what we reduced the items in the first year capital, and we're reducing the budget for roofing by $1 million. I would like it to say because of the roof assessment. Just so people looking at it in the future know why we did that. On the next page, do we put in, I guess I have a question about the minutes. Should it say where they're subject to the Board of County Commissioners approval, or do we do that at the board level? Okay, so I would add in 6 under ADA renovations on the 3rd to last line, where it says to recommend to the Board of Education to approve the bids and award the construction contracts. And then I would do parenthetical subject to the Board of County Commissioners approval to Godfrey Construction and Sam Tyson Builders. And those were my only 2 changes. Does anyone have any?
I do not.
And we need a motion to approve the minutes. The April 26 minutes, sorry.
A motion to approve the April 26 minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, next. The first thing on the open session agenda is the Sun Valley Middle School HVAC upgrade bids.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Heintl, real quick, and board, if I can just take a point of privilege, I'd like to welcome Mr. Mark
I'm
Strickland,
sorry.
who is our,
I should have
it's
done
okay, who is our new Assistant Superintendent for Administration Operations. And his first day was yesterday. He has hit the ground running and is glad to be part of Team UCPS. So for the Facilities Committee and the public, just want to say welcome to our team, and we're glad to have you.
Yes, welcome. We're excited you're here this morning.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So what you have in front of you is the Sun Valley Middle School HVAC bids. You can obviously read the document. As you remember, 1 or 2 meetings ago, we moved $272,868 to the Western Union budget for overages there. So that reduced that overall budget to begin with. However, even with that reduction, we received bids on May 23rd, and we're still under budget by $173,082. So staff recommends awarding the contract to Action Mechanical, totaling $690,000 contingent upon legal review and, of course, pre-audit.
Have we used Action Mechanical before?
We have, yes, ma'am, several times, and have little to no issue.
Why did y'all not choose Training Carolinas?
Training Carolinas.
I had the same question.
It's a good question. Through central purchasing, they were non-responsive due to lack of bid bond and good faith efforts on their minority participation.
It's under company. You'll see those comments under there. I didn't see them either.
I see it, but what I'm getting at, for $185,000, should we not follow up and see if it was a clerical oversight?
We could follow up, however, then you would have the potential of the other 2 bidders protesting the bid because they did provide all the documentation at the time of bid. We would have significant issue, and we would have to do thorough investigation because of their low numbers. We just don't see it's even possible to actually do the job for those numbers. So something was amiss on their, we feel like something was amiss on their budget. I mean, on their proposal.
But I could conversely say that we missed the estimate on a lot of budgets and we're way over budget. So, I mean, are we in the position, how old a company is Training Carolinas?
They I don't know. I don't know. I know they've
guess-
been around for a while, but I don't know.
I guess the question is if we have a bid process and this is what you're supposed to submit as part of the bid process and they didn't comply with our bid process, I don't know what we're
I
supposed to.
understand the legality of it,
Right.
but I also understand $185,000 of taxpayer money.
I think what I'm hearing Danny say is that he knows the scope of the work and this bid does not appear to meet the scope of the work and is questionable. So I don't think we're, and they didn't follow the bid process. So that's just where we are.
And the big one is the bid bond. They did not provide a bid bond with their bid package. The other two bidders did.
And the good news is that it's still under budget.
That is correct.
So-
So 173,000.
Matt, how do you?
If they were non-responsive, I'm good with that.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the bid to Action Mechanical and make this recommendation to the full board next week.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Against? 3-1. Okay, the next thing up is the New Salem.
All right, what you have in front of you, and we try to break it down with the alternates and everything. The New Salem sewer bid. This project's been going on for quite some time. We were delayed a little bit in review with the state. Obviously, we have a full permit now. It's going out to bid. Two contractors submitted bids. The first time we only received one, and so we could not open bids. It went back out the second time, received on May 16th. Like I said, two contractors, and the lowest responsive bidder was Eberhardt Construction in the amount of $944,676.
And have we used them before?
We have not,
Okay.
but we have not done a full sewer replacement project either.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to working with them. And it is still under budget. As you know, the project budget was 1.5 overall. You have the breakout there in front of you, the different things we spent. And after bid, soft costs and everything, we're still under budget by $305,000.
Okay, and I have a legal question. Isn't this, the award of the contract also contingent upon the eminent domain proceedings or not? I don't know.
We currently have the land, and the land is in our name. In my meeting with Gil Middlebrooks and Bringawatt was to move forward, bid, install, and we're working out the, can I say final compensation of it? We're working out the final compensation.
So we, okay.
I have some questions. We have land application systems at Fairview Elementary, Union Elementary, correct?
Fairview, yes. And you, yes.
Okay. Are they land application or underground? Well, I said land, the systems we put in up there, they're underground, aren't they?
Union is Fairview. Fairview, I'm not sure. I can't remember if Fairview is spray or not. I can't remember. It is spray.
Okay. The concerns I have, and to educate the board, under North Carolina regulations now, for it to be land application, it has got to be drinkable, water drinkable. And my concerns,
Yes. That's a good point.
do
Thank you.
what?
We're going to take this up in closed session because of the eminent domain proceedings.
So we're
Litigation.
taking it off the agenda?
We're going to move it into.
Okay, that's fine.
So then should we vote on it or should we?
Yeah, you can deal with the issue that Mr. Ray was dealing with is addressing closed session, but the actual contract and open.
Or can we talk about it in closed session first, go back into open and then approve it? Let's do that.
I have just a question about this, the way the money is broken out. So where it says total, 305,663, can we use a different heading instead of total?
Sure.
Because total makes it sound like that's what we're spending on the budget.
Under budget, I
Right.
think.
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
so let's find a different title than total.
Okay.
I
About
think
we
that would
just-
be just a little bit deceiving.
How about we just do it
About
over under budget?
remaining or something like that.
Remaining amount.
Budget,
Remaining
remaining
amount.
budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next issue is the surplus equipment.
This, we brought to you last month as well, not this actual one, but the same thing. As you see this third page of that, we have one item from child nutrition that Denise has signed off on, and we have several items that has come to us at facilities that I've signed off on to go ahead and place on gov deals. There,
Typically, do we have stuff like this every month that comes up? Is that how it works? Okay.
we will. You will probably see this every facilities committee meeting, with maybe the exception of December, because we shut it down in December just because of logistics.
And we have to do this, like turtle sandbox with a broken top. We can't just throw out the broken sandbox, or do we have to put everything on gut? I mean, just a legal question,
You don't have to. You can.
but it's worth it for whatever you get.
Correct. You can discard it, you can scrap it, or you can sell it
Interesting. Okay.
and do an auction.
So Danny, is this a new process we're starting? Because I've been on facilities for 2.5 years and I haven't seen this on a monthly basis. So is this going to be something new we're going to see each month?
Yes, ma'am. You're going to see it each month. In the past, purchasing had been given the authority to go ahead and place these small items like the broken sandbox top, just to go ahead and place those on gov deals and move forward. But in the interest of full transparency, we're just going to give you a list each and every month of what we're putting out there, so you know what we're doing with it.
We started that process last month with the mobile
Mobiles,
units.
right.
So we
Yeah.
decided to keep moving
And
forward with it. I know,
I
yeah.
just assumed that was because they were mobile units.
Right.
That's, that's real estate, or, we put students in those. But I haven't seen this in the last 2.5 years, so it'll be nice to see
This
this
is
on.
this is a new process, and this is something that in consultation with Michelle and David Clark and others, and as Dennis Covington has come on as our CFO, we want to make sure we have full disclosure. So
Okay, great, thank you.
Ms. Merrill, I might add, this was never out of policy. I was told that during Dr. Webb and Don Hughes's tenure, they decided to do this on their own.
No.
Policy was to come to the board, and they took it away from the board.
Okay, so Danny,
Yes, ma'am.
if this is going to be a new ongoing process, which I like very much, so thank you. Will we get a follow-up when these items are sold? Will we get an ongoing report like what we like next month? Will we find out what we still have and what is gone?
We can do that. Once we sign off to get them sold, then they get turned over to the purchasing. So purchasing puts them on gov deals. They receive the checks get deposited in the appropriate accounts. But that's something that we can work through with purchasing and finance.
I guess maybe if we just, I don't know about the little stuff, but if something is over a certain amount of money, if you could just let us know that that we got X number of funds in for that. Like, I don't know what the mobile units went for or anything like that, or if they're still sitting on gov deals, but
I think if it's important enough to bring it to us 1 month, it's important enough to let us know when it's moved.
Okay.
When we no longer have it.
And then where does the money go? I mean, shouldn't the dispersal of the money actually come back through the board once we get the money from the proceeds? I mean, if we don't determine it, who does?
It's my understanding that I think it depends on who all, and this is a question for Mr. Covington, but I do believe that whoever purchased the amount, whether it was purchased with federal funds, state funds, local funds, and who purchased that amount, then it goes back into those line items. I could be wrong. Is that true, sir?
For example, this list is school nutrition. So if anything moves off this list, it would go to school nutrition.
Right. That'll go back into her funds. Correct.
and the mobile units would come into facilities and so on and so on. Is that, okay, cool.
Correct. I can tell you that the mobile units, don't hold me to the numbers, but we had two lots, a lot of 8 and a lot of 3. The 8 sold for roughly 27 grand. And the 3, correct. And the 3 sold for 8 or 9,000. I forget that one. But those are rough numbers for you.
If it helps, policy 2-48 addresses all this. And the reason it hadn't been coming to the board before is because you delegated in that authority, in that policy, authority for the superintendent or designee to place on gov deals essentially any property that's a fair market value of less than $30,000. So that's why you were seeing all this before. And then it talks about being sold, and then that if there's a, once there is a certain threshold, it's then written for, it's supposed to be provided. So that's how the process, that's why you haven't seen this today.
Well, we appreciate the extra efforts.
So just for clarification, it goes to us and then we go to the full board and vote on this, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And the other question I had too, the HP plotter, are we looking to replace that or?
No, sir.
Okay. Because a lot of times you get a trade-in value that's over and above just
Right.
for having something, so.
Okay. Can I have a motion then to recommend to the board the approval of the auction items?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thanks. Next item is the Student Realignment Citizens Advisory Committee's website and K-12 Insight. Ms. Stolbert? Oh, did I skip? I skipped. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Right-of-way request.
But wait.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Right-of-way request, Weddington Matthews Road, Danny.
Okay, Ms. Paxton is here. If you all have any questions for her, but basically the NCO DOT and Hopper communities are requesting 0.0278 right away. You have the map attached to this as well for and temporary construction easement along Matthews Weddington Road. So our Cox Road property. The right of way will allow for ingress egress for the new subdivision across the street, basically. And the formulated easement values proposed by DOT were $898.93, and Hopper is willing to pay $1,797.80 for that easement that you see.
Okay.
It's my understanding that there are, and Ms. Paxton can correct me if I'm wrong, 35 single-family dwelling units that are going to go across the street. Is that right?
And Ms. Paxton is representing.
Ms. Paxton, who are you representing? Hopper Communities.
Okay, thank you. And what's the recommendation from staff on this?
In talking it over with staff, we take no issue with it. It will not impact if we were ever to put a school or facility on that site, it would not impact our ingress or egress in any way. And so we take no issue with it.
This is for the turn line. Is that correct?
That's because it's not require a turn lane for a subdivision less than 50 new houses. But because the traffic is already very heavy in that corner, they are asking us to do a turn lane here. Actually, there's only a net gain of 25 properties because there are currently 8 mobile homes and 2 houses that will be eliminated by this new subdivision. It's a single turn lane, left turn lane, heading north.
This is basically for cars that can turn, they have to stop and turn without impeding through traffic.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Okay, now, sorry, Ms. Stolbert.
Good morning. So we've completed a Student Realignment Citizens Advisory Committee webpage that will be housed on the Board of Education's website. And the page has the timeline. If you click there, it pops up, upcoming meeting dates, and then a list of the committee members. As the committee moves forward with decisions or has information available, we will populate this page with that information. And this is where all of the information related to the committee will live. And so we made it live this morning. You can access it from the Board of Education's page. We could possibly put a quick link on the home page if that'll be easier for our community to access. And this is a start to where all the information will be. Okay. And just as the committee makes decisions, as information is made available, we will populate this page or have subpages stemming from this main page. Okay, great.
So one of the aspects we've talked about is how will the community provide feedback to the advisory committee, and we've gone back and forth between a platform like a Facebook Live or an email address. And so I had asked Tahira to research a platform called K-12 Insight, and so she wanted to kind of give the facilities committee a quick heads up about that and kind of let you all explore what that's all about as an example.
So K-12 Insight deals with community engagement and parent engagement as a company, and they have a new tool called Let's Talk, and it several school districts in the state, Wake is using it, Guilford is using it, and what it does is just kind of compiles information all into one space so that you can have information readily available to share back, or if someone has a concern, if they have a comment, if they have a suggestion, it all goes in one place. But then it's also a way for us to engage our community with conversations about what's happening with us. We could shoot back information or have it there on that platform. So they have about a 3-minute video that gives a big overview of what it does. And if I could share that, that'd be great.
Whether you're a superintendent, board member, or other educational leader, there are so many voices coming at you that it can be hard to figure out which issues most require your attention. And thanks to social media, these conversations are always on and open to anyone with an internet connection. Unfortunately, these conversations are also increasingly dominated by a vocal few. And ultimately, those perspectives come to define your personal brand and that of your schools. The truth is, we're living in an age where people expect answers right now, an age of snap judgments. Even the best managed schools are just one misguided tweet or blog post away from a crisis. But when and how are you supposed to deal with all this? Introducing K-12 Insight's Let's Talk, a cloud-based technology designed specifically for you and your schools. Let's Talk can be accessed from any device, anywhere, at any time. Regardless of how they're submitted, all questions, comments, concerns, and even compliments go into Let's Talk. A parent calls you about high-stakes testing. Drop it into Let's Talk. A teacher emails a concern about performance evaluation. Drop it into Let's Talk. A taxpayer tweets questioning the purpose behind a bond referendum. Drop it into Let's Talk. Let's Talk is customized so every submission is assigned to an appropriate school administrator. And K-12 Insight trains your team on how best to quickly respond and close the loop. Each department and each school has a dashboard so that you can view key metrics at any time. You'll see how many people have submitted feedback, which topics are trending, average response times, and whether those response times are quick enough for your community. In essence, a dashboard based on comprehensive data, illustrating what's really important to your stakeholders beyond the anecdotal. We know what you're thinking. Sounds good, but seems like a lot of extra work. Well, you're probably collecting feedback already, but likely in an ad hoc, disorganized way. You're no doubt familiar with misplaced sticky notes, forgotten phone calls, or emergency meetings where you realize you've been left in the dark about a small issue, which has now grown into a full-blown avoidable crisis. Let's Talk will help you streamline those efforts. By providing clarity on what's trending, Let's Talk allows you to preemptively address issues most important to your community. As schools compete for students, it's more critical than ever to manage your brand and provide first-class customer service. Most importantly, by committing to an always-on conversation through Let's Talk, you're building and nurturing community trust, the very foundation of successful schools and high-achieving students. We've helped transform hundreds of school systems nationwide. We'd love to help you too.
So is there a method of response in that as well?
There is. So
Okay.
on the back end of it is the method of response where we'd have to decide internally how it will be handled. But basically, you respond back to the person who asked the question. And it could be used for a variety of different topics.
And everybody can see it?
That I need to check on. So
Okay.
there's some spaces where you can submit it where it's private, or you could submit it to like a forum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the forum would be so that everybody could look and see if that question has
Right.
already been asked and answered.
Exactly.
And then would this be for more than just the Citizens Advisory
Yes,
Committee?
it could be.
It could be,
Absolutely.
but we'd start out with this,
mhm.
okay.
Some Guilford is using it for transportation. They're using it for suggestions to the superintendent. I think Wake was using it for reassignment or something similar to that. So it can be several different topics of what we want to use to keep that engagement going.
Okay.
So just one tool we're considering looking at.
So for now, we're only going to use this for our realignment process.
So the short answer is yes. We are still working on getting a proposal from them and a bid. We wanted just to let you all know kind of this is an example of a tool that's out there. I don't think we've actually come to a decision to settle on this, but it's one example of if we were to use a tool for feedback, this would be a good one, and we would start it just with our realignment process.
That would be great. I'd like to, I'll talk to you afterwards about sending it to Matt Cropper
Okay.
and Dr. McKibben so that they could take a look at it as well.
Okay.
That would be great. And I don't know if they have any ideas either, but I'm sure you've looked at most of them.
Okay.
Okay, thank you
I
for that.
also think this should go through the technology committee before decisions are made on that.
We can do that. We can bring it to the technology committee. We're trying to research to make sure that it's something like this a little bit more manageable than like a generic email account or something like that. So we can take it through the tech committee if you'd like us to.
I guess if it's just for the Citizens Advisory Committee, I didn't think it would need to, but if we're gonna expand it, then yes.
The intent was just to use it for the realignment process throughout the year next year, use that as a pilot. And then if we want to expand
Then
in the fall of 18, then we could. But that was kind of our goal.
I would agree with that.
is that okay? Or do you want it to go through even for the Citizens Advisory Committee?
I still have some questions about it, but I mean,
Okay,
it looks like a good solution. I mean, just how it communicates with other platforms.
okay. Okay, so we don't need to do any action on this item. This was just an update. Thank you for that. Okay, the next item is the Monroe High School Bond Project Design Review.
So, about this. So the Monroe, can we mute that for a second? Probably better if you could just black it out.
Do you want me to turn this on here?
Perfect. All right. How about this? So the PAT and Dr. Harvey is here too to answer any questions that you all may have. PAT got together, designed charrette, and we've gone through, and they've gone through 2 charrettes now, and they come up with basically 3 options. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that option 2 is not an option because it gets into the setback into the adjacent property. So option 2 was just came out of the design, and once researched a little bit closer, then without acquiring more property, which we're not doing, it's just not an option. So basically, what you have, what they've come out with, then PAT wanted your all's input before doing the final design. Excuse me. For the final design was option 1 and what option 2. I'm going to go over a few of the pros of each one, and then give you the brief synopsis of where the school is now. So option 1, if you will, here's the front of the school, as you all can see, right? Hold it up. Front of the school, you have the turn, the cul-de-sac, if you will, turn around, whatever you want to call it. depending on who you talk to.
And just to remind everybody, the bond project for Monroe High School is 8 classrooms, 2 teacher workrooms, and 2 teacher offices, just as a reminder of what we were talking about.
Correct. Thank you.
Right.
So in option 1, basically you have I'm calling it a pod placed in the front of the school over here, 8 classrooms, teacher workrooms, and everything. It's a viable option. It's a good option. There's pros and cons for each one of each thing. The biggest con is it's in the front of the school. And it kind of gets that whole, here's the front of the school, here's a pod, and we have the AC Cat already over here that's a pod placed as well. So it's not the best location according to the PAT. Dr. Harvey, if I say anything incorrect, please correct me. So you have this option. Option 3, because we just talked about option 2 not being one. Excuse me. Option 3 addresses several things. It addresses congestion back here in this hallway. It addresses the elevator issue that's back here going up to the 2nd floor. And it also gives you your 8 classrooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Single loaded, so it's a little bit more expensive because it is single loaded. It's not as efficient. But for the landscape and the site plan where we could get it to fit was the best option. And I will just go ahead and tell you that what the overall consensus was when we're talking through with option 1, option 2, option 1, option 3, the 2 options. Option 3 was unanimous that that's what the PAT staff, administration, and everyone would like to have. This option right here. However, the only issue with this option is we feel like it's going to be over budget when bid. So what we would like to do, get your feedback on it, and with your blessing, move forward with this option, if at all possible, with an alternate for these 2 classrooms to see where we are with the budget once we bid it.
And the reason, and maybe Dr. Harvey can speak a little bit to this, but when I was at the building, it's to address this area of the building right here has a big crowding situation, and it would help address this area as well as the bus lot is over here, and it would allow a new way for kids to get into the school from the bus lot that's a little more manageable. Is that how you would say?
If I may,
Yes.
currently at our school, you have traffic coming from multiple directions in a very small corridor right here. They're coming down this hallway, from this building, and even from outside of the school. Down the stairs as well. So you have multiple points where everybody's congested at one time. And then everybody has agreed, from parents to community members to teachers to administration to people that sat on our PAT team, that is an area that we should try to focus on addressing through this $3.4 million bond, that we have a great opportunity to resolve a safety issue. Unfortunately, when we put that out there to the architects, they did a wonderful job in designing. However, feel like with the current cost of square footage that it may not meet our budget requirements. But we feel like we should address safety in this opportunity and take care of this. Another big factor in this, and I think Danny's mentioned this already, is that we have an elevator system that is frequently out of order. What would you say, Danny? It's been, maintenance calls are done on it all the time. It's an elevator that is an exterior elevator that is a push button that was probably installed a long time ago. Frequently, kids are stopped while they're going up, or the custodians send their materials down and it's stopped and they can't clean. And we're always calling maintenance to address that issue. This also, Plan 3, allows us to address the elevator issue as well. And I believe the elevator has some code issues as well with where it's located right now. We feel like, the use of losing these 2 classrooms allows us to actually, for the time being, keep a mobile. So it's not a net loss of 2, but also only a net loss of 1 if the mobile allows to stay there at this time, is allowed to stay there at this time.
How many students do you currently have at Monroe High School?
So I just pulled that number. I was texting
Okay.
my data manager while we're back there because I wanted to give you accurate numbers. And so if you'll just give me a second to pull that up,
Okay.
I'll be happy to share that with you.
And if you have projections for next year too?
I
that
do.
would
I
be
have
great.
all that with
Okay.
me. So current enrollment right now is 1,000. 1,138 students.
Okay,
Projected enrollment after factoring all the students who we predict may go to CATA or early college for next year is 1,255.
so you have a large 8th grade class moving up
We have
into your,
an 8th grade class moving in of 321 students and a senior class moving out of 202 students.
so the bubble, just like all the high schools are seeing.
And
Okay, great.
currently, our largest class is our current 9th grade class with 369 students.
Okay, okay. You currently have 13 MCRs on site, according to our stop, with 8 of them being used as classrooms.
Correct.
Is that correct? So 8 are currently in use as classrooms. And I think the idea for the bond was to replace, so there wouldn't be classrooms like that in the mobiles, to have them in the inside a brick and mortar building. I guess the only issue that I have with the cutback from, I agree with you, I've been in that corridor and we've talked about that. My concern is what the enrollment forecast looks like for Monroe High School and cutting back on those 2 classrooms if needed. You know, the McKibben's projection from December of 2015 has your biggest years being pretty far out in 24, 25. And that's getting up to 1,300, almost 1,400 students at
Be
that time.
interested to see what the new
That's what I'm-
forecast is going
yes.
to be, because I know that Mr. Ray at the middle school, him and I are in constant communication about his numbers.
Mhm.
He's seen a significant drop in his numbers at Monroe Middle School because of some charter schools opening up
Okay,
in Union County.
right.
So I bet that number's going to change
And
significantly.
I completely agree with you. I guess I like the second option or the third option, whatever one, that the PAT liked the best. Just to ask an option, I'm just going to call them option 1 and option 2.
Perfect.
So option 1 is plunking a square building in front of the school. How
Correct.
would that be connected to the existing school?
It's connected via walkway.
And like a canopy, thank you. Okay.
It's an enclosed walkway.
It's enclosed.
Yes.
Oh,
it's
it is an enclosed
Correct.
walkway. Okay. Okay, great. I do like the second option better. My concern is seeing that enrollment forecast just to confirm that we would be okay with 6 classrooms instead of 8 classrooms. I don't want to cut back classrooms and then there be an issue in the future for you. But I agree that it would be nicer to take care of was there any consideration about double decking that addition, given that the existing space is a double, that it would be connecting to is somewhat of a double?
Yes, ma'am. We did ask the architect to consider that. However, it significantly increased
More
the
expensive.
price.
Okay.
Right.
I thought that was it. I just
It was.
wanted to.
And then Dr. Harvey, my rough, and this is rough, this is not Cropper McKibben in any way, but this is a rough, you have roughly 47 classrooms.
Correct.
So at 30 students a classroom, and I don't know what the magic number is. I'm just throwing my number out there. That's roughly 1,400 students there. That's before you add the 6 or the 8 classrooms. And we talked before that, and Dr. Harvey just mentioned it, of if we could not afford, the idea is to get all 8 classrooms. But since it addresses several issues, that we feel like it's better to take the 6 classrooms and address the safety concerns. And Dr. Harvey could make it work with floating more teachers. Is that correct?
You know, I've been in Monroe for 19 years. I would have a hard time believing that we would ever get to 1,500. It's never happened before. And I know
It's
the
not something
forecast-
we want to happen. So
Exactly.
don't get me wrong.
I mean, and currently, you know, we are crowded as it is, and the 6 or the 8 additional classrooms is going to relieve a lot of that congestion. It's going to allow some different traffic patterns.
And that's why
for
I
us to
like
happen
the
as
second
well.
one, because it allows you to address the traffic patterns. But
And it's a great opportunity, and it's, you know, like I said, it's 3.4 million reasons why we should do this, is because it's attached to student safety,
right,
and attached to student concerns. And as the leader of Monroe High School and my team and my parents and everybody that's been involved, that's their number one concern. And even our students that were involved, and I think you were impressed with our students that were involved as well.
very much.
They went out and did a survey amongst the students, and they unanimously came back with that option as their choice. We have an interior design level 2 course, and we've engaged them in this process because this is great hands-on learning experience that's going to be relevant to them as students in our building. And they unanimously thought that was the area that we needed to address and try to make work, even though we had to remove 2 classrooms.
Yeah, I think the idea today is get your feedback, but let's just take it to bid and see what it comes back. I mean, if the concern is that it's going to be over versus under, we'll come back to the facilities committee with the options and the final numbers.
So just from here, there's still some design phase that has to happen. I'm sorry. There's still some design phase that before we go out to bid. We're still months away from bid process, right?
Yes.
And I guess there's concern about if we see the enrollment forecast and 8 classes are needed, that we've already gone down this road that may not allow us to have 8 classes, and then we would have to switch. But I'm hearing the principals say that this is what they want, and they believe this is the better way, and they'll make the 6 classrooms work.
Well,
And I agree with you that from what I've seen from the DPI numbers about the rising kids out of elementary into middle and middle on up, that I would expect to, but we haven't gotten anything from Dr. McKibben yet. And that's the only thing that makes me just a little bit nervous.
the point important to remember is that it's really eliminating 2 from the plan is only a net loss of 1 by keeping that modular unit
Right.
temporarily.
Right. The whole idea was, was to not use the was not to use the modular units and give you more space.
And I appreciate
But
that.
also it was to help you with the crowded situations within the school. So we're definitely hearing you on the hallways being a part of that. It's not just smacking down 8 classrooms and calling it a day. It's dealing with other issues at the school.
One other point
Sorry,
I'd like to make, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I was going to say, has it been thought of too? How do you get a lawnmower in the middle section now?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
maintenance has been involved in that, and currently it already is the problem. One of the great plans about this allows us another courtyard opportunity to, engage for some other, and we're thinking about, I may reach over your
Matt,
shoulder.
I will just let you
This
know, we do
courtyard
have a
opportunity
bunch
as
of
well.
those interior courtyards at some of the schools. At the Sun Valley High School meetings, we've had the same discussion about the internal courtyards and stuff like that. They don't get used a whole lot, but they do exist at a lot of schools.
And this also encloses, this is a current building. You can see this also encloses this hallway with this hallway and less students outside the building during transitions when it's raining and other things like that. So I believe it's the best plan. The elevator is another issue. I think it's a big point that we need to talk about as well. We do not have any current students that are wheelchair bound, but should we, I think that parent would be very disappointed in the opportunity we provide that child to get upstairs in our building. Of course, we know we could relocate those classrooms, but our system works the way it is.
Right. Well, I'm sure that we also have students that are sometimes wheelchair bound for temporary things or crutches or things
Correct.
like that. Yeah.
This is a great
Okay.
opportunity.
So that
for
was
to
actually
take
one of
care
the
as well.
questions I had. Does this option include a new elevator? Are we getting rid of the, okay,
That's
okay, that wasn't, okay. That wasn't exactly
Yeah, I know.
stated,
Yeah,
so, okay, so we're getting a new elevator. Most enclosed courtyards or pebble, pine needles, whatever, are you planning on getting rid of the grass, or
I think
what
it's
was the solution?
a great project for our core construction academies at our
Mm-hmm.
school. Let them design it, involving our interior design CTE courses and letting our students develop what that looks like and what they'd like it for it to be. A lot of that work could be done by our students.
So at Sun Valley, when we discussed it, a lot of those interior courtyards are never used. And that's one of the big thing. And there's grass at some of the schools and pebble, like you said, at some of the schools. So it would be nice if we could find ways to use those.
Because the schools that my family has been a part of, they are used. They're used for class parties, picnics, reading celebrations, multiplication
Right.
celebrations, end of year celebrations, but they're not grass.
Right. They're set up
Mhm.
and inviting. This is basically
off
just,
the library,
Correct.
off the classrooms. So I'm very hopeful that your enrollment is going to increase. So I'm going to kind of contradict a little bit. I hope that your numbers do go up because I'm very excited
I think it's
about.
meant across
Yeah.
the county.
Yeah.
From the,
I was
that I want is.
What I was going towards though was the healthcare
Yes, ma'am.
and the medical, the STEM plan that we have for the middle school, and hopefully drawing more students into Monroe, and then transitioning and having a plan with Carolina's Healthcare and Novant, whoever wants to partner with us. So I'm hopeful that in 3 years, we are going to see growth and that we're going to need those 8 classrooms. So my preference is option number 3, or if you want to change it to 2. But I really want to push for the 8 classrooms because with everything that we're planning, I think families are going to want to be at Monroe, to be part of the STEM and the healthcare and the sciences.
And I get that, but if the money's not going to be there to put the 8 classrooms on where they're talking about, then that's going to be, we'll have traveled down this road from design into the bid process and really won't know that until we get into bid, right? So that's the big question, is we don't know what the enrollment forecast looks like. We don't know, and McKibben won't take into account what you're talking about, Ms. Merrill, because he won't have done that. You know what I mean? That's something he won't have looked at, but I agree. But it does show, even without that your population is growing at Monroe from his December 15 forecast.
Because the one thing we haven't discussed is, the bypass. That's not finished either. So we have to take that into account. And, once we get, our STEM program up and running and we have this partnership with Carolina's Healthcare, and this takes off the way we, presume it's going to take off in that area. I would hate to get 3 or 4 years down the road and say, I wish we had added that extra classroom or that other classroom. So I think we're all saying the same thing. We send it out to bid for 8 classrooms, and let's just see what comes back.
Yeah, I got a question too. What about tying into the existing structure? Is there any code upgrades we need to do with the existing structure by tying it in?
There at the front where basically the lobby area that you have there, obviously we'll do some upgrades there with the front entrance, because right now it's just a canopy connector. We'll do some there, and then as you come around that outside hallway there, but it'll be minimal impact as far as that goes.
I guess my concern is you get into a building, you tie into an existing structure. It's not up to code on there, so you have to bring it up to code on the existing structure to tie it into.
There'll be a firewall that separates the two.
Okay.
So two separate buildings, so it shouldn't affect.
Okay.
And I guess off of that, I think we're all saying the same thing. And I like option 2 the best, or option 3, whatever the original part was. But given that Danny and the architects and everybody are already saying that there's a fairly strong chance that we won't have enough money to put the 8 classes on with that design, what do we want to do about that? Because I would really like to see McKibben's forecast.
I think we'll cross that bridge when we get the bid. And
But then-
get McKibben's information.
But then we're really far down the line, though, at that point.
We don't go out to bid until November or December. I
Right,
don't
but there's a
think
lot
so.
of work between then that would then have to be undone to redo that.
Right.
I guess that's what I'm trying to understand.
The bid calls for 8 classrooms. I think it's our obligation to get bids for 8 classrooms.
Oh, I'm not saying we wouldn't get bids for 8 classrooms, but they already believe that there's a strong possibility that the amount of money that they would come back would far exceed the $3.5 million. So if we already know that, I want to be, if we already think that that's a strong possibility, then how do we plan for that ahead of time? Because we're already be fairly down, and then those would all be change orders from there to go to redo something, right?
I think the consensus is that I'm going to call it connector and pod. The connector is the option, is the one that we would like. And I think the thing to do, my opinion is to move forward with the design on that way, because it addresses many issues. And we do a base bid of 6 classrooms. In that same bid, we do an alternate for 2 classrooms. By then, we will have the numbers from Cropper McKibben to say, is this doable with 6 if we're over budget? Who knows? Maybe the climate changes, who knows, and we get all 8. I don't know.
Why would you go out with 6 with an alternate for 2? Why would you just
The
not go out with
taxpayers
8?
voted for 8. So I recommend that we do the bid for 8 with an option to do 6.
Okay, and David, did you?
I know,
You
but-
can
Right.
Work it either way.
Yeah, we
You
can-
have
we
to
could-
Add alternate or deduct alternate. I mean, typically we make an add alternate where the base bid would be 6 classrooms, and then the other 2 is X amount of dollars more. That way, the base bid comes in right at the budget, we can't consider the 2. However.
It's the same
we're also gonna
thing.
put some other alternates in the project. We've got a theater renovation, we've got a dressing room pod back there. We're gonna have several alternates that will give you the opportunity at the time of bid, decide which you would like, or which you prefer. We'll just have like a smorgasbord of the base bid and several alternates.
But what I guess what I'm trying to say is that there will be no bid that goes out with respect to the place where we can put 8 classrooms. So if we believe that they need 8 classrooms, there won't be any alternate that unless we come up with more money for 8 classrooms.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand.
Or unless you go back, to option 1.
That's what I'm saying. But at that point, there won't be an option 1 because the next 3 months are going to be working the design process toward option 2. And then that option 1 won't have been finished with the design phase. I
And
mean, I'm trying to understand the process.
And if we change the whole design, after we go down the connector, get it designed and all that, and they go, no, we want option 1. Any cost savings that we would have recognized with the pod will be lost based on redesign, rebid, and pushing everything out.
That's what I'm trying to
We
say.
don't-
That's what I'm concerned about.
Dr. Hart.
We would greatly appreciate 8 additional classrooms. We believe we can make everything work and be very successful in what works at 6. And yes, I know it went out there to bid and to vote for 8 additional classrooms, but a lot of things have changed since then, including the STEM Academy and including, opening of some charter schools and numbers moving in lots of different directions. And the McKibben report would tell us that, and I know that's behind us or too far in front of us for us to make this decision today. But if we got to 6 additional classrooms.
Well,
we
I
would be
guess
very
that's the
successful.
question I hear you. We do. I guess that I share Ms. Merrill's concern that we put it out on a bond with 8 new classrooms. So I share that concern. But I also can we hold off for a couple, 3 weeks on this until McKibben comes back with his forecast so that we have those numbers in front of us to talk about? And I know I'm throwing a monkey wrench into the works, but I would really love to see his numbers before we say, because I believe that we are ultimately going to be saying 6 classrooms instead of 8 if we go this way. And I appreciate that you'll be able to handle that, but I want to understand it. I guess that's all I'm asking
Dr.
you.
Harvey,
Yes, sir.
when I talk, I know what it's like to be asked what you think is the best thing to do, and they unanimously say the attached section, and then the board would decide the pod. And you think, well, why did you even ask us? But
Not but.
the pod on the front, could it become the new front of the school?
I don't believe it could.
Okay,
You're gonna, in the front of our school, and a lot of you have been to our school, when you walk in our
I
front
work
door,
there.
the main entrance where the main office is and the security doors are. Proudly says right across the top, founded in 1897. That's the front of the school.
And they have a little circle out in front.
That's the front of the school, and adding a pod onto the front distracts from that rich history of our school. And a lot of people are against that. And then we talked about the community. And a lot of people have seen that happen in a lot of high schools and other schools that have had bond projects. I was at Parkwood High School yesterday. You walk in there, you have a little air traffic controller, center where it doesn't feel like you walking into the school when you go to Parkwood High School.
And that's a complaint of the administration at Parkwood High School. Yeah.
So the front of the school is the pride of the school. It's the entry points where people feel like, wow, I can really get a great sense of what the school is about. That pod addition feels a lot different when you add something like that.
I have a follow-up question. What do you think the classroom needs are going to be for the medical academy in the high school?
Well, we're certainly looking at the success of Monroe Middle School and where they're going to go, and we're going to form our judgments off of that. We've already added a second health science position at Monroe High School, and that position is currently posted.
Okay.
Because we do have a high interest level of students who are seeking that profession and seeking
Great.
to go in that career path. And our numbers this semester were just through the roof that we had to give a lot of students their second option.
Okay.
The challenge right now is finding that teacher. We're
Okay.
working through that process as well. I see us adding a lot of different things along those lines, like Monroe Middle's offering the medical Spanish, the medical investigator type of branch, and those activities too. If kids get that seed started at middle school, we don't want to kill that.
But
flower.
you
We
don't
wanna
see any
continue to grow.
specialized classrooms or anything like that?
Not
being needed?
necessarily. I
great.
hope that when we get to that specialized setting, that our kids would be walking across the street to the hospital.
To the
get
hospital
that-
for
to
it.
get that
Exactly.
experience.
Okay, great. Okay, so Danny, back to the question about waiting for McKibben to come out with his enrollment forecast.
In 3 weeks?
He said he'd be done by the end of June, so that's actually 4 weeks.
We should have adequate time to develop the documents to get it out this year. I think that's what we want to get it out in fall. I think we can do that. We just push the argument. Okay.
I mean, that's
Wait
my,
another month.
that would be, I would like to see what McKibben has to say about the enrollment forecast.
I mean, just looking at the schedule, it looks like we have time.
Okay, then I would like to see us table it until we can get McKibben's enrollment forecast and then go from that point on before we, I don't want to say no to what would be a great idea for Monroe, but I want to see what McKibben has to say first.
We can let the architect get to work with the other aspects of the building, such as orientation.
Awesome,
and,
okay.
that area.
What do you guys think about that?
Ms. Merrill, I agree with, when the bond package said 8 classrooms, we need to try to work towards that. But what the bond package didn't address was what if it runs over what the bond proceeds were estimated to be needed there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely.
So,
But
because
I think it's our due diligence to aim for 8. And if it doesn't meet the 3.4 that we also told the voters, then we have to trim from there.
And I
So-
think it's part of our due diligence to look at what Dr. McKibben has to say about. And at that point in time, we will also be done with the capacity study for the school. So that could also weigh in favor of there being enough space, but we would like to take those into account. I would like to take those into account. I don't know what the rest of the committee.
Well, I thank the committee for their openness to exploring this opportunity for us and addressing some serious, issues that Monroe High School has.
I appreciate that. And I guess at the end of the day, we still have the elevator issue to deal with if we had the pod put at the front of the school as well.
So we'll delay it for a month. We'll get the report back. And I do want to say thank you to Dr. Harvey for being here and to the PAT
Thank you
of
very
Monroe
much
and
for your input.
for your due diligence with this. We appreciate it.
What? Motion to table.
Motion to table this till we get the McKibben report back.
Okay, second.
All those in favor? Okay. The next is Sun Valley High School Bond Project Design Review.
With this, we have Little, Tom Balky and his crew here to do a short presentation. Total no longer than 10 minutes. And so they're going to hold to that. And then obviously it'll be opened up for questions. So with all of them here today, I think we'll be able to answer any questions that the Facilities Committee may have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shana and Tom.
Okay, real quick, thank you for having us here this morning. Quick introductions for our teams that are here. Tom Balky, I'm the student principal for Little, for our school design team. Shana Hetherington is the design planner and designer for the Sun Valley project. Jerry Philp back there in the blue and gray shirt, he's a project manager and construction administrator. Next to him is Shane Brandwood, working as a civil designer on the project, and David Powell in front of Shane leads our civil engineering studio. We have had Sun Valley, there's a lot going on there. We're touching on so many aspects. So it's a very complex project. Fundamentally, we're going from a approximately 1,400 and 1,800 enrollment. There's cafeteria expansion and growth in there. There's 10 new classrooms, increased administration space, teacher planning, new choral room, auditorium renovations. There's several maintenance-oriented projects. There is the stadium improvements and some of the other athletic improvements. So a lot of dynamics. I probably left a few off there. We've been very involved with the PAT team, and the first thing we did in interacting with them was to review what is targeted for the work there, and then to create a goal or vision statement for the project. We did a session with that, and this is a statement that PAT team came up with in an effort to promote Spartan pride and to reflect the amazing people within. We strive now to build a school on the values of flexibility, spaciousness, invitation, and safety to our staff, students, and community. From those discussions, we asked them what words come to mind the most that helped form the statements. Flexible. Pride was very important to them, that they felt pride about where they went to school. Space, safety, inviting as people come to the campus, state of the future, looking to the future and being progressive at the school, and to reflect the amazing people within. This is just a sheet just showing all the different folks that participated in this process. Here, this is a photo just showing some of the activities, some of the students that were engaged. All the sticky notes, I had about 300 different comments in there from that. And here, as we went through the process, we also then took a deep dive after the visioning to talk to focus groups, the various areas, classroom administration, athletics, et cetera. And then once we had all that programming data, the vision statement, the bond information, we went through a series of design charrettes where teams, the PAT created their own plans. They became planners. And then we shared together the different ideas. We had multiple ideas that came out of that. I mentioned the focus group. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to touch on the site, and then we're going to get to the building planning. Right now, we're about in the middle of the schematic design phase for this project, so it's an opportune time to come before you. I'm assuming everybody can orient themselves pretty well with this map, and I'm going to walk in front here. But quickly, we have Old Charlotte Highway, Wesley Chapel Road here. Everybody comes in here. Our visitors come in here. Many of our staff, not all of them, because we do have some staff over here. We have buses. We have student drivers, parent pickup drop-off. We have service deliveries to the kitchen. We're landlocked over here on the kitchen, so there's an extreme amount of pressure there, and no new high school would have everybody coming in at one point. The student parking is here, the bus parking is here. They're all sharing those drives. When students come in the morning, they're filtering through the modulars between these buildings and nooks and crannies coming into the school. And then the administration is over here. So they're losing that contact and that observation of the coming and goings. So that's important as well. And then with the athletic, of course, the stadium is a big part of the project as well. The pressures of the relationship of that to the Wesley Chapel Road. We have the tennis courts. We need to add 2 more to there. We're going to look to do some work and improvements to the ball fields there. And then we have practice field, half practice field as part of the existing site conditions.
And that's a dump in the beginning.
Yeah, and then the dump. Yeah, the dump is right there. And then, so I'm going to show you 2 plans. And then we're going to get into more detail about the building planning. So 2 site plans and building plan. Just apologize for this being a little hard to read. I'm not sure why the resolution's not real good on here, but as you're all aware, there are road improvements that are going to be coming. This is funded, and we don't yet have design drawings from them being DOT. So they are going to, the right-of-ways and setbacks will all be changing while they're in Wesley Chapel. While that has not been officially designated, and correct me if my interpretations are wrong, but we have been told by DOT in the town that those improvements are going to happen.
We've been told by regional DOT, not the state.
Yeah. Right.
Just to confirm,
Okay,
correct?
thank you. Correct. So anyhow, those things are going to be happening too. And as you begin to look at, these are setback lines, and then there's right-of-way lines in here. So it's going to be having potentially some impact on the front of the school, as well as going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes and increasing, the rate of travel there. We're also going to have impacts along here, and you can particularly see when we get into where the stadium is, located. So those are realities of what we're having to deal with here.
One of the biggest issues is, just so everyone understands, is right now coming out of that parking lot that houses everybody, there's a signal there for left turn and turn right. Once that's widened, it will be right turn only out of the school, and they'll have to go up and do a Michigan left, which is get into the left lanes and go around and come back at the intersection.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted
No, that's
to
a great
make
point.
sure everyone understands.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Some of the buses go out, it's a road that goes
Right.
out behind the schools and goes in between Sun Valley Middle and Sun Valley Elementary and Shiloh out to Rogers Road. And they take that a lot because it allows them to go out to Rogers, turn right, and then there's a light at Rogers and Wesley Chapel Stouts, and then they go left there. So it's easier for them to hit the light, because the light at Old Monroe and Wesley Chapel Road is only the left turn light is only 13 seconds long.
Yeah,
I
and
believe
we
in
do-
actuality, though, didn't we talk about this, that a lot of people will be going through the Publix parking lot?
Well, but you won't be able to get
Get across.
across to
You
the
won't be able
public.
to
There'll
cross
be
it.
a median in there. And
Yeah.
what they were saying too was that the public, we know a lot more about that corridor than we know about this corridor. But on that corridor, there'll be a right turn only into Publix, and there won't be an exit out of Publix from directly across from,
Yeah,
is
you
what
will
they're
not be
saying
able
right
to
now.
go across there.
You will not. Yeah.
So right only.
Yep, that's it.
There is a TIA consultant traffic impact analysis. There's a draft out on that report. So they've been involved in this as well. And of course, there's been meetings with DOT and Indian Trail and other representatives too. I was going to mention something else about the traffic, and I left my thought for the moment. So let me get into this so there's 2 site options. And the fundamental difference with them, when you see on the next one, is really the position of the stadium. So I'll talk about some of the general things, and then on the next one, I'll just highlight how the stadium movement affects that. So again, we're increasing the number of students. We're going to increase traffic, right? So what we're doing is we're taking the buses out of this equation over here. So we're removing them from this pressure point. And in any new high school, you would do that. So we're actually taking that over to Wesley Chapel. So coming into here, we will have students and visitors. They will come up through here because what we've done is we are changing where the entrance to the school is. Instead of being up here where we're coming around, or we're getting tight around here and here, we're also going to need to have increased stacking length for the number of students. So we're bringing all the visitor and students come in here. They'll still park in the student parking area as we have it. We're going to look at creating some kind of new identifier, new kind of signage or graphic as you come into the site there. And then the visitors will come and they will drop off and park here, and then they will come back out. So that will keep all the cars, students and visitors in that area. And then this here will be utilized primarily for staff then at that point, and then also for, when the use of the auditorium. So then the buses will be coming over here. So the bus lot would then be placed on the other side of the stadium. And then the students would come through here and come around the stadium and into where the new entry to the school is. So the administration, guidance, and student comment will be here. So all the students.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Unlike Monroe School, where they want to keep their existing entrance to the building because it's old and it's been there and that's part of their heritage, the Sun Valley people don't feel like they want to keep that entrance at the front of their school.
Yeah. It just makes so much sense because it becomes, you're really beginning, it's a safety and security. You're beginning to control that condition by bringing all the students, into that point.
Well, and also I think the students or the PAT, the whole PAT, felt very strongly about it because they, from their visioning statement, everything they talked about was they want the entrance to reflect who they are. And they feel like the current entry just doesn't do that. It doesn't say all the great things that are going on in the school. And in addition to the safety, that when the community are coming to fields, they see where the entry is and the Sun Valley entrance. When they're parking or when they're visiting, it's all in that same location. Bus people are all coming in the same location. So it was that safety factor too, of having that main point of entry versus having to come all the way back around to the original
The
entry.
signage is going to have to deal with that because most people aren't used to the front of the school being so far back off the road, especially in Union County.
And then, and what we're doing with the new kind of traffic pattern and entry piece as you come in will help that as well.
So that's kind of how the site circulation. The other thing that was, so the cafeteria dining expansion, there was a, again, we're constrained here and just the logistics of doing that, how you do it. So what we ended up determining was to do the classroom and cafeteria expansion over here. That gets your service away from the primary entrance, because right now it's literally a dump back there too. We got a dump there and a dump there right now. Yeah. So and that the logistics also just how you execute that, get that done, and keep a cafeteria going. This made a lot of sense to do that. And then what we're going to be doing here, since we're calling for a new choral room, is we're going to be creating this as an arts hub for the school. Right now, they've got some of that over in here. They've got visual arts classrooms, the auditorium. So we're going to put theater and choral in there, as well as bathroom improvements for the auditorium, because that's not very good condition there right now either for public. And then some of the spaces over here that we use for theater will become classroom space. So that gives you a hub there for the visual and performing arts, which will be really nice also at that corner of the school. And then as we get out into the stadium and site athletic improvements over here, as I mentioned, so the stadium, if we stay in that position, what we would end up doing, because we're expanding to 4,000 seats, so there would not be enough room along this edge for approximately 2,500. So we would move the home from this side to this side, replacing the stadium seating, and then move the visitors to this side. And then, of course, new track, new field, new stadium, pretty much redoing the field expansion from 6 lanes to 8, which then moves it even further to the road. I think we're about 9 feet off the road right now.
We could
before
switch the
improvements.
sides of the stadium. And,
So we're doing, we're switching the sides.
Okay.
One of the thoughts on that is that, typically you want your home seats access to your largest parking. So normally what you would want to do is put the bus riders or the visitors in the bus lot and your home people, larger audience in your larger parking lots. So in this case, we would have home crossing to here and buses crossing to here. So that becomes a little bit of a logistical challenge, because unfortunately we try to keep them apart. So those are challenges about that. In the tennis courts, what we're looking at is we're going to increase the apron to add 2 more courts. We're going to rotate the orientation because they're not oriented properly either. This is also not this is the opposite orientation of how you'd want to do it from a solar perspective as well for sun and whatnot. So we're going to keep that and expand those. The practice fields, those will be fine graded, regraded, and improved, because they have some flooding issues and things like that right now. So there'll be some improvements there. The baseball and softball will be staying in place. Again, we're going to improve the playing surfaces, add lights, or replace the lights for those. And then a huge thing here as well is, I mean, there's no pedestrian way or no access. It's just dirt, mud between all these fields, all these venues. So including getting to the stadium, so there'll be pedestrian improvements to connect all these venues in that way. The second site strategy, again, I don't need to get into all this stuff because all these things are staying the same. The only thing that this is proposing is to take the stadium and move it as a central hub so that the restrooms and concessions can be part of that. That also improves the bus parking then, because then I got my bus riders closer to the entrance, so they're not walking as far. I'm not in the ROW anyway, and it's doubtful that we can even do that based on what we're hearing from Indian Trail anyhow at this point. And then so this area here is getting reworked a little bit, but it's not a huge grading exercise because the site's pretty level anyhow. So And this is proper solar orientation. My visitors can come here. My home people can come here.
And the tennis courts will remain there and
Tennis
not move
courts
over
again,
to the.
no, we want to keep, we're trying to minimize that as much as possible.
Do we have one?
Do we have one in the site
At
plan?
one time, we did talk.
We'd put them over here at the
at
middle
putting
school.
them Over here where the middle school tennis
Right.
courts were expanding. That was an option. We could still explore that.
Right, because we're not final on anything. We're
Right.
just asking for guidance and input.
So the new front entrance to the school would be where buses and parking student, and that's going to be big enough for all the students to funnel through a single.
They would be coming into here and then they would move into the courtyard areas or into the buildings. They can have contact with the administrators. The kids that are coming in late can get to the attendance office. So
They do a lot of that as is. They kind of all collect right around in that area, whether they're waiting for the buses or going out to parking. So this will allow a place that has faculty to observe all of the students easily, have indoor and outdoor space for those students, so that there's areas for kids waiting with the training to be picked up and things like that.
yeah, so here would be the administrative area coming in from the student visitor parking, and then the bus lot coming from here. So the bus riders, the student kids, and there would be a canopy area or overhang over here, so that kids could just come into the building during the coming and going at the morning and afternoon. They can move into the buildings. They can begin to move into these courtyard areas. So it's kind of a nice move through these courtyards to get over to the cafeteria area. And I think this is going to become a really dynamic student hub, as we talked about courtyards earlier.
And it'll still be fenced as it currently is.
Correct. It'll
so
still
that
all be
after school
contained.
starts,
Yeah.
it's shut down and you have to actually come through the main doors to get into the rest of campus.
In the new admin area, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, is obviously connected to the building. So
Yeah, it's
once you're in
connected right there.
it's not a separate
No.
admin building that nobody can get back into once they leave.
Yeah, no, it's connected right here, Danny.
Right.
It's connected with the rest of the campus. Visitors would come in here in a controlled lobby, move into a new reception area, and then be released back out into the building. We have the administrative offices, the attendance offices here, so students could get easy access if they're late. Then we have the guidance area here, where they have a guidance common or student common area here, where there can be a lot of interaction in that area. So, kids coming in can spend time here if they want to go there first thing in the morning or late in the day or throughout the day. So it really begins to become a great new entrance for the campus.
Light, open, more reflective of what they want to feel.
And then again, the organization of the building, much of this will stay the same because we're relocating the admin and guidance. We're picking up additional classrooms over here in the renovation of that. And then here we're also picking up, these are the new classrooms, and we got these in a variety of sizes, and then the new cafeteria and kitchen. So that these will begin in with the ag building over here and the food service. We're talking about at least one culinary lab here because what they have is so inadequate right now that there could become some dynamic interaction with those programs as well. And then ROTC will be coming out of the trailer and they will be backfilling some of these classrooms here. As we said, we're renovating choral, theater, restrooms as part of the fine arts facility now. And then we're also going to be doing some renovations in the media center. One of the problems in the media center is part of their size challenge is that they do so many multi-purpose meetings, and part of that they can't really utilize it. So where the library once was, we're going to turn that into a multi-purpose hub, which will allow this space then to be dedicated more specifically to the functions of media and research and student interaction. At the end of the day, I think we're actually right now about net 12 on teaching spaces where the bond was calling for 10. So we either going to have more or we might have the benefit if we have to scale back to make some modifications to that. There's so many things to go over, so I went over.
I have a couple questions. I understand I was at 2 or 3 of the meetings, 2 of the charrettes. So is it more expensive to put 2 additions onto the building than a single addition onto the building? I mean,
Yeah.
just keeping, I mean, this is a ginormous project and I'm just doing my diligence on cost issues and stuff like that. But I get why they're doing it and why they like this. And I think it's a great idea. I'm just asking.
It would be easier to contain it all into one spot or less expensive.
Okay.
We are not, the square footage we're putting in has not changed.
Okay.
And we're keeping it single story. At one time, we talked about going
Double on
double
that.
here,
Yeah.
which is, we noted in the previous ones, more money. And part of getting away from that was the ability to do this, because this whole campus is single story. It just didn't make sense to start adding stairs and elevators for one area and beginning to segregate that.
Okay.
And-
So, from a buildable areas, one time we thought about two-story there, but now that we're not building as much in one spot, we can keep that as a single.
Having the two separate areas though does help us with swing space and construction phasing of all the different projects.
Yes.
Because it allows us to build.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that logistics that we've been thinking through as well.
And I do like having the administrative offices and the guidance counselors where the parking is. So when parents, come in to work with their guidance counselor or their student, everything is near the parking and the entrance. So I do like the new traffic flow pattern very much away from this congested corner.
Yeah.
And,
There's an old gym at Sun Valley that's not really used for anything. Did we decide to repurpose that area for anything?
There's an auxiliary gym
Yeah, no.
here, and then there's a wrestling room here.
And one of them's not used anymore, right?
The wrestling room that he's talking about is basically used for wrestling. Because you have that's the old cafeteria, believe it or not,
Right.
which is there that's currently being used for wrestling. The auxiliary gym, which was the original gym, and then obviously with all the high schools that did not have it, we added gyms in early 2000s, late 2005s.
I thought there was one big space that wasn't being used for anything.
There may be.
My understanding was that they were still using that space, that it wasn't like fluff, but, and we can go
I'm
back
not
and.
calling it fluff.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that
I
there's
am sure. Yeah, my understanding was that they were still utilizing primarily for wrestling and or probably other PE type programs.
My understanding is that the old cafeteria that we're talking about is used for wrestling and for ROTC drill during inclement weather is where they go.
I just wanted to make sure that we
Right.
took into account, and I had heard differently.
Okay. So the big thing to note too on as far as the stadium, and Tom mentioned it, with the existing right of way, now that we have the survey with the existing track,
Go back to the.
yeah, with the existing right of way, we're right at the edge of the track. I don't know the actual distance. I mean, Tom, if you're awesome, you can scale that up.
9 feet with the current 6-lane configuration.
9 feet to the existing right of way, existing.
Yes, to
Yes.
the sidewalk. That's where the
Okay.
right of way, yeah.
So then the existing setback, even before they go into
Yeah,
the
that-
widening of
that's,
Wesley Chapel Stouts
somewhere
Road,
right in here. It's
is the
setback.
second line right there that goes across, basically turns 1 and 2. So that's our issue. Yes, Indian Trail has a variance process. However, it's a variance process for basically what's in place. Improvements, we don't feel, and the soft answer we've gotten from them is they wouldn't approve doing any improvements in that area in order to give a variance for that, since we're already in the existing setback.
That is correct. We also did a cost analysis on all, actually, all the site. David did a, so if you can't read the exhibit on here, but go ahead to the exhibit. But we did for both scenarios, we did the pretty comprehensive spreadsheet here of athletics, parking, drives, all that stuff.
Do you have a copy of that?
There's a hard copies here, yeah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there was David, the differential between
this.
site option of staying and site option of moving the stadium was 100 and.
We don't have that.
This is the only one we got. I want to
Yeah, I have a couple extra hard copies. So, again, at this level where we're at, I mean, we haven't done any stormwater design or any of that stuff yet, but best as we can project at the two layouts, about 175. And then primarily being, there's probably going to be a little bit of additional grading work and doing
There's
that.
big
And-
issues over on the side where you're putting the addition, just to the right of that, there's already big water issues there with flooding and stuff.
Correct, yeah, and that'll all be handled within those. And then there was a sewer line we're gonna have to be working with, so.
After the 11th.
Because we're fundamentally replacing everything in the stadium. We're going from 6 lanes to 8. Those 8 lanes will put us right at the edge of the sidewalk that's there right now. That's another 7+ feet.
So the first sheet is what you're seeing here, which is option A. And the second sheet is option B with the stadium moving. And it was basically a comparison, apples to apples, of the cost difference between the two. You'll see that even if the stadium were to stay, the improvements that have to be done, it would essentially cost the same as building a new stadium. The main difference moving it had to do with sewer relocation, is that right, David?
A little bit of grading and sewer.
Right. So that was the only difference between moving it or keeping it.
And this is a cost estimate. So what's that rough number?
It's right around 5 million.
No. The delta between.
175,000.
Okay.
And these are just soft costs based on what you've done, and how do you determine these costs?
Well, David, just is based on experience and looking at these various venues for the various athletic venues. I mean, we haven't completed the full
Oh,
design
sorry.
package yet, so it's,
Can you
it's
make
our.
sure we get copies of these for everybody?
Yeah, we're getting copies made right now.
Yeah, I didn't realize the resolution of the projector would not work out very well, so I apologize for that.
So the difference between option A and option B is about $175,000, and that's all around the stadium,
Correct.
whether the stadium stays or goes.
Right. It affects where the bus parking goes. But we gotta
Okay.
do a bus parking either way, so it really
So
doesn't affect
is
that.
the bus parking, that's in the 175 difference?
No, it's not, because either one, we're building a new bus parking.
Oh, right.
lot, so whether it's on this side of the stadium or this side of the stadium. So that's new anyhow. The differences it's really reworking primarily these practice field areas is a big thing.
Okay.
No, it's really not a big thing. And then where there's a sewer line there. So those are the two primary differences.
Otherwise, they're pretty apples to apples.
Yeah, I mean, none of the other stuff in here we're changing. It's just really this area right here between the two.
The same improvements will be made to tennis, to baseball, to softball, same improvements to the practice fields, things like that.
What type of?
Another thing that I think, I want to point out on both of these, because we talked about the bus connectivity. I just want to bring that up. Was that with the bus parking lot, right now the bus lot is here and this is gated and they can get over through this network of bus lots and over to Rogers. So one of the things on the TIA is we needed to maintain that. So what we're doing in this case is looking at a drive that would come over here and then connect to those other routes to get up to
So you're
Rogers.
looking for another drive?
Well, yeah, so this would be getting connected to the inner workings of these bus lots that are over here, Kathy, so that they can get out to Rogers. We did not want to begin to look at trying to connect back through here because.
Okay, but if you go to the next one, is there that interconnectivity?
There is. So here it becomes more of along this, you're able to connect because with the stadium moving, I can also connect to the service areas over here to the kitchen.
Okay.
And we essentially.
But there's
creating
no,
bus service
there's
back
no
there.
way from that bus lot to
We've
the,
taken
to the
that out of
auxiliary
there. We
road.
just-
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you either gonna build something there or build something over here and just the concerns about trying to weave a bus drive.
I did like having accessibility from the bus lot to Rogers Road, because
And
if,
that's what we have.
You still have that.
where?
It comes through here. It comes, that's what I.
That's what I was just asking.
Yeah, it does. It
Oh.
still stays.
It's just it goes south versus north.
Okay, so wait, where does it go to?
That will come over here and connect into this drive and then around.
Okay, right now that drive is gravel.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to make improvements to that.
Which one's gravel?
That
This over
one
here.
behind
This one.
Sun Valley Middle School.
I have a question. It's got synthetic turf on the football fields.
Does it?
Go ahead, Tom. Answer
Not,
his
not in
question
these
first.
numbers, that would be an additional.
It's an alternative.
That's not in there. That would be an alternate price. I think we had a line item in there.
As a separate column in there, but that's not included in the base.
Well, the numbers you were using here, it has synthetic turf.
It does. So this number here does not include the synthetic turf number. It includes these four numbers, but not the synthetic turf. That would be-
I have never seen the thing where it goes, I've never seen the design where it goes behind, and I'm not even sure there's enough room to put a big enough road behind there. There's wetlands back off of the back part, off the back of the middle
The
school.
wetlands are being investigated right now to determine if and what there is. And if that becomes, if that becomes the case, then we have to look to move the tennis
Right.
courts. and then
Right.
we'll cross
Because
that.
I do like the idea of having, because just so everybody understands, if and when Wesley Chapel Stouts gets expanded, it will become a 4-lane boulevard road. So it would be, right turns out of the bus lots and stuff like that, right? So it's still nice to have access to Rogers so that they can go out there and get to the lights to
Yeah.
go toward Wesley Chapel.
And on this one, you have the access to the service line in the back of the cafeteria.
Right.
On this design.
It
Yes,
would in
and
here
I like
because-
that
because
too.
You could get back and forth.
Yes, I like that too.
And to your point, we still need to investigate that. And if we have to, if we determine that this is a better option from cost and planning, then we would have to look at bringing the tennis courts back over to here.
Right, and maybe once you guys look at the wetlands that are back behind there, you'll be able to make a determination. But it's a very narrow,
Yes, it is.
I may have driven it a few
Yeah,
times.
we walked out there. We walked out there and looked at all that stuff. So
Yeah,
The one correction, when they do the improvements to Wesley Chapel Road, this intersection becomes
a
signal
light,
based.
right,
So that was the reason too for connecting over here so that our buses could get to this signal and make the left if they needed to without having to connect them all the way to Rogers. Because the high school and the middle school right now dismiss at different times. So we could cycle the buses through that intersection before the middle school let out. So
Yeah.
that's the other reason for that connector in the front is it does get you to the signal to make a left.
yeah.
Doug, go to make
That's the only way in for parents in and out of the middle school.
What were you saying about the tennis courts and wetlands and?
Well, no,
so
what
one of the
the
things
plan
here-
that I had seen the other day that I showed you, that I left in Charleston in the trunk of the car, is that those tennis courts. So right now, Sun Valley Middle School has 2 tennis courts right there. So the high school currently has 4, and then they use the 2 over at the middle school to get the 6 courts. So the one drawing that I saw showed all
Correct.
6 courts being over at the middle school.
They did. They had those over here, and then that would allow you to connect through here.
Yes, that's
It
what
was-
I saw.
It was this one.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. We were just trying to
And
look at
then,
if we could keep those tennis courts there.
and then there was the connector
And then
through
you could
here
connect
up
through
to
here.
that. But you're right, I hadn't thought about the road and being able to get out at the light. But we're still a long way potentially away from that road widening, and that light wouldn't happen until the road got dealt with, right? So, I mean, currently, right now, getting in and out of Sun Valley Middle School to make a left turn is not all that easy
Well,
on
with
a
the bus
45-mile-an-hour road.
Yeah, the bus position here that gives us to explore these options
Yeah.
as well as
Okay.
that option.
I hadn't seen this before, so
Yeah,
those were
and
my
I apologize
questions.
because we did
That's
actually
okay.
make that change. We were trying to make these as kind of as equitable as possible for the evaluation on that. The other scenario, go back to the other, so with the bus parking here, I guess we could begin to do a similar exploration through here. One thing that works.
And I get why you don't want it to go through there. Kids are walking out of school, getting to the ball fields for practices and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of a safety issue to make sure that that's monitored so the kids are paying attention to what's going on at the end of the day. But
Well, it also splits the venues. In this
Right.
case, we can fence and secure these athletic venues. So we
Right.
have the stadium here and the drive-through here.
right.
And students coming back and forth through here, then we get to where we're splitting that.
But if there's room behind the middle school, then maybe that's another idea.
I have another question. On the stadium or the football field, where's the new seating at on here cost?
Those are under, those costs are, David, can you help me point that out?
Well,
Did we take,
the concession stands and the seating were actually included in your number, Tom,
Yeah.
for the building.
Yeah, so we were
this was
looking
trying to
primarily-
hold it just to site-only costs.
because,
Kind of flat costs,
yeah,
if you
because the
will.
bleachers and the concessions and restrooms are going to be the same for either scenario.
Right. And
Yeah,
I
but
guess, I don't know, I'm sorry, I had to take a phone call. My dad's in the hospital. So the thing with moving the stadium is then they would share bathrooms and concessions. I missed the very last meeting, so I'm just asking that question, is they would share some of the concessions potentially and bathrooms with the other
With
two ball
these other
fields.
events, with the
So it
softball,
would
which
take
doesn't-
care
yeah,
of-
Softball doesn't have that right now.
Right, correct.
Baseball's got a small.
Very
piece
small.
over here.
And another thing about going, well, you say we're not going with the artificial turf.
I'm
But
not saying we're not. What has been discussed is doing it as an alternate.
But if we consider it, what are we going to tell the other high schools?
Well, that's for us to
Yeah.
have a conversation about. Yes, only one of our high schools right now has turf.
Monroe.
In Monroe, and the reason I've been told the reason Monroe has it is they don't have practice fields.
Correct.
So they use that stadium for everything all the time. But it's something that we have to have. I mean, once the bids go out and stuff, we'll know where we are from a price perspective too. But yes, Dennis, that is an issue.
So the location of the tennis courts, as we see it here, is where it currently is, just
That's
a
where they
different
currently are.
rotation? Okay, that's where
Right.
they.
Well, but there's only
currently
4 currently, so they'd be
Right.
taking up more space. Sorry, yeah.
are. Is there any benefit of keeping it in the same area?
You have, here we would have benefit of 2 courts that have surface.
Uh-huh.
Here we have surface, but we're
Oh.
reorienting them so we can get that 6 to fit in there, but still using the surface, but new
So
nets.
you can use the pad that's there now?
That's the intent there, is to
Okay.
use the pad, add enough so we can get 6,
Okay.
and then the reorientation. Similar thing here, except there's 2 courts. We could use,
But
what's there.
Yeah,
and then
it's
add
kind of
2.
tight in there.
It is tight, yeah. So those are.
And that's the existing field house,
This is, that.
the
we're
weight
keeping
room and
that,
field
that's
house.
staying,
Okay.
That's staying. And so these connections, those connections where these goes is still.
It is nice that the
Still
butt
pretty
slot is a shorter distance to get to the main entrance of the school than
Mhm.
where if you leave
Yeah,
it
from here to
oriented
there.
where it is, they have to go around the top of the stadium and come back
Well,
in.
even for ball games, if I'm coming to a basketball game, I can put my visitors here, my home here, so I can do that, I'm further away if I'm here.
Do
for
we have
those
separate
events.
parking lots at schools for home and away? I didn't think so. Okay. I was just wondering if at the other schools we ever did that.
Just on an administrative observation of kids getting on and off of buses, it'd be easier to have it closer in this location versus on the other side of the stadium. First option.
Question 2, on the baseball and softball fields, we're not moving those at all either.
No,
There
Why
was
do we
talk-
have money to resprig it?
because the fields are not in
Yeah.
the best.
Is that included in the bond?
What was it?
It was upgrades too,
Uh-huh.
correct?
All the ball fields were
Right.
included. I think.
Because I think part of it is sinking or it's too wet most of the time.
And just so you know, in the 5-year plan that we have for capital, it also takes care of the ball fields at Parkwood, Piedmont, and Forest Hills, and tennis courts at all the schools. So we have taken care of in our capital plan, making sure that the other schools of the same age and stuff are upgraded as well.
In the capital plan, at the other high schools, will they be getting additional lanes for their track?
They're not 4A.
Porter Ridge is 4A.
Do they
So
currently have it?
will their track, because I know they don't currently have any
They only have,
events.
they only have 6 lane now?
I don't know. I
But
thought
they're
Blue Ridge
getting-
was 8. I'll have to
They
check
are-
and
the
see.
high schools
They're getting a
are
new,
8.
they're getting a new track though, so, right, so we can take care of
I
that.
just want to make sure it had the proper amount of lanes for a 4A.
Let me ask something else. On the lanes, with 6 lanes versus
Good
8, do
point.
you just not run another heat? I mean, that's not a disqualifier, is it?
The
No.
state of North Carolina requires that you have 8-lane tracks to hold any kind of regional or state type meets. It doesn't preclude you from just holding dual meets within your conference. But if you want to host any kind of a statewide sponsored event, you have to have 8 lanes.
And those sponsored events, to my knowledge, bring in a decent amount of money for the school when they host things like that.
They don't have to share it.
That's a separate issue, right? But I don't believe
But I'm
so right
talking
now.
about with the partnering schools.
I think the money that, what? I think the money that I'm talking
I think
about
it's
is
like gates.
concessions and things like that. They make a decent amount.
Similar to like a home football game.
Correct.
For hosting, you're the
Exactly.
host.
And they use some of that money to pay for security and
Right.
EMS and everything else that has to be there for that event as well.
But they do make money off of concessions and things of that sort.
And Porter Ridge High School does have 8 lanes. Yes.
Maybe it's because it's deteriorating. I just know that Porter Ridge is 4A and they have not been able to hold any events there. So that was
I
part of my
think you're
question.
exactly correct with the deterioration of the track, which is why we have it in the plan to replace.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions? Any more questions? Thank you very
All right.
much.
So, and then the next step would be for us to go back to the PAT, design charrette, to work out these tennis courts and where we're going to put everything. But is it the consensus of the facilities committee that we move forward with relocating the track for all the reasons?
The stadium.
Excuse me. Yes, I have track on my mind. The stadium for all the reasons that we've already mentioned.
I mean, given the pricing and oh, sorry, Melissa, you go first.
I don't know why my eyes keep going to that practice field. The practice field, is it used for football and soccer, lacrosse? I mean, who all uses the practice field?
I'm going to answer with yes. I asked that same
All of the
question.
above?
Yes,
Yes.
lacrosse, soccer, and football.
And right now, where this new stadium is, there's a practice field there that's
Mhm.
currently used for the same thing. And the soccer field's a little bit oriented, a little bit
Right,
more
to
over
the,
over
survey
here.
drawing, you can see that.
So there's both the middle school and the high school share those fields.
Yeah, so right
Yeah,
here,
there
this
you
is a full field, this is
Soccer.
full, and then this
Yeah.
is like a half.
Can you go back to the design? There you go. Is there any benefit, maybe it's parking why this is located here, but I was just curious if the practice field was considered in this area instead of this
We
area,
are.
and maybe it's a parking
If you
issue.
look on the aerial view again, this area in here is where investigating that for potential wetland
Gotcha.
impacts.
Okay.
So we don't know that yet, and if we're not impacting that, we may look
Mhm.
to all.
And that gives you, go back, sorry. That gives you a better view of what the lane behind Sun Valley
Mhm.
Middle School looks like. And those are their 9 learning cottages and that tightness against that same area that he's talking about that
And
they're
then the tennis
investigating.
courts are down here.
And the one we
So,
just put the walking track in next to.
yeah, so the tennis courts-
Literally,
so that would be the
just
other
put it
option
in.
is to go
Where's
here
the
with
walking
tennis.
track?
The walking track, that's
Show
why I
me.
leaned over to Danny and I said, what about the walking track that just literally got put in?
Where'd it go?
It's right here, right?
That, I don't know.
Okay,
It's right in there.
okay.
So they just finished it, and so the walking track on the front of the school won't be in use anymore.
Once we know what we're dealing with here, that'll open up other options for us to look
And
at.
the only reason we're showing this practice field striped as soccer is because that just takes up enough space. It doesn't mean that other sports.
And part of this is asking the county to remove the dump as
That
well.
was my
Yes,
next
ma'am.
question.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
dump.
Yes.
Okay.
Tom and the board, I have some wetlands that I've had to deal with. We can mitigate them to the back 2-to-1 if it is in fact designated wetlands.
There are ways to mitigate, yes.
The state requirement now says if you want to do away with an acre of wetlands, you build 2 acres in place of it.
Just the one thing on top.
It still has to be approved though. I think, David, is it correct? Tell me if I'm stating this correct. It'll be a little tougher on a commercial developers that may not be on the school.
Well, if we can keep the impacts to a nationwide permit, which in this case, I think even if we find wetlands, we can keep it to a nationwide permit being less than a half an acre disturbance and less than 300-foot stream. If we do that, the permitting process isn't quite as strenuous. As you said, we can either try to mitigate on site or, pay some mitigation bank, but those, we'll have to explore which one might be less expensive.
I tell you, it's months worth of work in 45 minutes here, so. I apologize.
Well, my concern was not letting a wetland spot stand in the way of a spot we need when there is avenues to move that wetland.
And that's correct. We just need to know how much, if it is. Yeah, so we're just waiting on that determination. And then we'll know.
Okay. Any additional questions? So we need to decide if we're moving forward with option A or option B. Option B being moving the stadium and then the surrounding fields. Option A means leaving it where it is, which could be problematic with respect to making it an 8-lane track. Will be problematic
Correct.
with making it an 8-lane. Well, right
Road in the
now,
future, right.
the road is still a potential, not a definitive, I guess. I think based upon what regional DOT told us, they're going to recommend it to be a priority item,
Correct.
that corridor. But it could be 5 years, it could be 7 years, it could be 10 years. Do you have anything more on that?
No, ma'am, I do not. That's exactly the answers we'll be getting. They're going to recommend it as a priority. Everyone agrees, Indian Trail and DOT, it needs to be done. One, it's only in the design phase, scope phase, if you will. And there's no funding been allocated for it yet, unlike Old Charlotte Highway, which is going to start construction in 2019.
And I have one more question about the track. Is it mathematically impossible to add the 2 lanes to the inside?
Yes, because then you encroach into the playing field area of the football field.
How wide is each lane in a track?
Yeah, so the answer to that question is yes, it is impossible. The distance of a 400-meter track is measured from the center of the inside lane. So if you add lanes inside of the track, it's no longer an official.
It's too short.
Everybody runs on the very inside lane.
But staggered starts don't mediate that.
No, because it would, like you say, you would be running a shorter distance than the 400 meters that the track is set up on.
Moving that inside lane further back wouldn't mitigate that.
So if you're adding 2 lanes to the inside.
I realize they're shorter in circumference.
Correct.
But there's a staggered start on 400, 440 relay or
Correct,
anything.
but what I can tell you from my experience in doing tracks is that everything is measured off of the inside lane. So you wouldn't be able to necessarily say on distance runs, we're only going to use the 6 outside lanes because everybody migrates to the inside. So I'm not sure how you would move the start finish line to accommodate having to run an extra distance.
Because then it affects the 1800, the 1600, the 3200. It would just affect every other race.
Right.
All the races are kind of set up in 400-meter increments. And so, like I say, you'd have to have a different start finish line for every event, not just the fact of the way they stagger the start now, which I understand what you're saying about staggering starts, but it would be, I don't think the track in itself, if we did that, would be considered official by any of the high school athletic associations.
Right. You would also get within, looking at it on Google Maps, roughly 2 feet from the playing surface, which is the officials wouldn't allow the game to be played with that close.
Within 2 feet of the playing field.
And I'm looking roughly.
And I think our goal here is for Sun Valley to be a premier for a location for state events.
Very much so. And I think that that's what the Sun Valley community is looking for with this as well.
So I don't think we're in a position to alter, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's regulations for a 4A track.
I'm not asking to alter. I was just asking if it was possible.
Anything else? I need a motion on something.
Well, I'm going to make the motion to recommend to the full board option B.
Do I have a second? And then any more discussion?
I'll second that to the
Can't
full
make- I
board.
can't make motions. So that's why I'm sorry. Does anyone, any other discussion?
Can
Me,
I ask
I-
a question?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No.
Option B is just relocating the
Right,
stadium,
right,
not the design that we've seen with.
I'm just relocating the stadium.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
all
I
right,
thought I
good.
said that.
No,
Yes.
you did. I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify.
Yes,
Thanks.
with moving the stadium.
Right.
Right.
Because really, there's so much benefit, like with the solar issues and the positioning of the stadium. And really the only difference between A and B is grading. If you look at the spreadsheet,
Right.
as far as cost and the taxpayers' money and what
As
they
far as what we
voted
hope
for.
the cost will be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess that to add on to that, that if you go out there and you walk the track, and Danny and I have done it, that existing fencing from the existing track literally abuts the sidewalk. Like there is no space between where the sidewalk ends and the fencing. It would be nice to get that a little bit more off the road there, especially given the fact that at some point Wesley Chapel Road is likely to be widened and it sits right on top of it. So given the parameters that we're in with respect to the roadway, I don't really know how we can make it work on that site and get the track in and everything else that we're supposed to get in. And, what I've heard about 4A is the top 10% of size of high schools in the state. And from what they believe is that we'll be a 4A school this year, right, Danny? Given
Yes.
the projected student population. Sorry.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
I just really want to commend the design team, the architects, the designers, and the PAT team, and I appreciate all of the time you put into this, Kathy.
The PAT team was amazing, I will say. Even the students and everybody that came to them were very, very helpful in the process. At the beginning of the process, I was like, ooh. And, I saw it all slowly come together. Yeah, Danny will tell you that. Don't laugh. But then you see it all kind of come together and then narrow their choices down. And it was very interesting. And they're very, very passionate about the process and the changes that will happen to their school. And that was hugely appreciated.
I'm excited for the Sun Valley community. And then everything that's already going on in that commercial area now. I just really think this is going to be a jewel for Sun Valley, something for them to be extremely proud of. But just, with my experience in site design, just the differences between, A and B. I have a lot of appreciation for, what has been done on B, the site design and the layout. The only question I have is figuring out if that's the best place for the practice field or not.
And the thing in the beginning that I didn't love was the movement of the front of the school to the side of the school, essentially. But the more I think about it, it's kind of actually nice because it's kind of the entrance to the school is away from the commercial property and away from the hubbub of that corner of the thing. And I have come to really like it, I will tell you.
I think it's also kind of interesting that now the front of the school is actually facing the other schools that are part of
Right, that are
that
part of the
cluster.
same thing.
So you're facing the middle school, Sun Valley Elementary and Shiloh, which is kind of a unique perspective.
Okay. So unless anyone has any questions, I need a vote. So all those in favor of the plan that moves the stadium, raise your hand. And the rest of the stuff with respect to the school and all that, raise your hand, say aye. All those against? No, 4-0. Thank you very much. Okay, construction update. We all got them in our packages.
Yeah, you have them in your package. I'm not gonna, we won't spend long on this at all. It's a one pager. We changed it up how we're gonna report it to you. This is also online on our website at facilities. Obviously you see that, and you all attended, Walter Biggett's open and running. We have to get the mobile units out, get those, that last bit of roadway put in, and then we'll be able to get a true CO.
And when do you think that? Did you just say that? I was looking for my piece of paper.
No, we've asked for the mobile units to be out by the end of June so that the contractor can be done by July.
By the beginning of the school year at the end of July.
Correct. That's what we're pushing toward right now.
Okay.
But that may change slightly depending on once they get all the mobile units out, but we're pushing them to get those out. They have
Okay.
been sold.
Okay.
Benton,
All of them, they're sold.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what he said. The 8 went for
Yeah, the 8,
30,000.
the
Yeah,
4,
and then the 4 to, right.
and the same person
That's
bought
awesome,
the
right?
whole,
Yeah.
all of them.
I'm sorry.
Same person bought all of them.
Oh, really?
Some gentleman out of South Carolina. I don't know.
What?
Out of South Carolina. I don't know.
Okay, Benton Heights, can you just give us a real quick update on that?
Really quick update on that. Benton Heights, design and everything came in, or design was done, bids came in. First time we only had one bid, so it went back out to bid, came back in, we had 3, so we opened them. And we had several alternates on the job in order to get, pick and choose with how much money we have. Unfortunately, and we're not going to discuss the budget because we're still in the process of negotiating with the contractor and value engineering, but it did come in well over budget. And so just the base bid, not to mention any of the alternates. So we do have issues there that we're going to have to address. And so we're working through that. That's why it is not in front of you right now, because we're nowhere close to determining on how we're going to proceed with this project.
Okay,
The 88 renovations, you all know about those.
right,
Those are
we're
going to go.
going to the county commission on Monday night.
Correct, with the complete cost this
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Forest Hills and Prospects, we will talk about those in closed session.
Okay,
Monroe High, as far as the bond, Monroe High and Sun Valley,
Sun Valley,
I think
yeah.
we've gone over.
transportation.
And then the transportation center. The next step, we're going with sewer/utilities to the city. The next step is going to be getting permission to get in onto the homeowners or the landowners' property in order to do surveys and seeing what we're able to do. I pushed that off until next week when Dave comes, so that we have whoever contacts the landowners is the person who's going to stay in contact with them, because it could be contentious. So I just want to make sure that if he would like to handle that, I want him to be able to, or if he would like for me to, then fine. But I'm just waiting for him before we make that contact and we move forward. We're not behind schedule by any means, but next week we need to go ahead and start making those contacts and getting that moving and underway.
Okay.
And that's really about it for the construction.
I
update.
have some questions. Where are we at in talking with the surrounding property owners on our property as far as them working to put the tap in for us?
I have made contact with him, and he wants plans and he wants amounts, and we won't have plans or amounts until we go out to bid.
I understand that. I have talked, I'm friends with several of the owners besides Mr. Tyson. And they want to accelerate this thing. So as far as them, it would be the same sewer tap for them to run from their property down across a corner of ours and tie into the city sewer across the street. Do you follow what I'm saying there?
I do follow what you're saying, but the gravity fed pathway from our property to underneath Rocky River to the city of Monroe is not through, it's through a trust, an individual trust company. Correct, David? And I forget the name of the trust, but it has nothing.
On our side of the road or the other side?
Please define our side of the road. I'm sorry.
The one side of Rocky River Road or the HOA on
So-
it?
It's the Hubbard on our
Our-
side and the HOA. on the other
Right. Our property is here,
Okay.
right? We have Rocky River here. So we're coming through the Hubbard property that's in a trust, going underneath Rocky River and then tying into the city, basically housing developments.
On
over
the
here.
other side of the road.
On the other
right?
side of the road.
Elton and Dave Hubbard Trust.
Sounds right.
The Dave part, but
He was my minister at Mount Carmel.
it's Hubbard and this Lombrook Homeowners Association on the opposite side.
But yeah, our next steps is to contact them to get permission to go in and do the survey and see.
Was it donated to the Methodist Church or is it still set up?
It's still a trust.
Yes.
It's like for benefit of.
They have no children is the reason I'm asking.
Gotcha.
So Danny, when you say that, that we need to progress along, but we're on schedule, so are you saying that we are ready probably to go out to bid in August?
David, while I'm looking up, you want to answer that?
Yes, the architect has completed most of all the revisions to construction documents. He's in the specifications. We've got to refine a few things. He's going to present a plan to you soon. We'll need to review the construction documents. And I'll be doing that while Danny's working on the land acquisition. But if we can get that done in a timely manner, and these things become somewhat contentious, we should be ready to go out in the fall. That's our objective, to get this job out on the street.
So when I think fall, I think October, November. Are we on track for August, September to go out to
No, I'm
bid?
thinking it would be more like late September, October.
Okay, so we might be a couple of months behind schedule on the transportation facility.
Well, we have, but we've actually gone back and refined the design, so it now needs some more additions that the current director needs and the way they are running their shop over transportation, so it's a good thing. And of course, it's a good thing that we're gonna be able to tap on the existing sewer, so that has extended a little bit, and that's the only unknown, is how long it would take to get through that process.
That'll save us money in the long run.
Oh,
Correct.
absolutely. So as far as this schedule on the website, with that being said, do we just move that back away from August and September and maybe push it to September, October? Or do you want to?
October, yes.
Yeah, so we'll update this on the website?
Correct. We sure will. Once we get into talking with the landowners and
Mhm.
get that, we will push it to get a true date out there. We haven't moved it yet because
Yeah.
right now it's up in the air.
And once we get that figured out, I would just encourage, just keep this current on the website. So when people want to go look and see where we are on the schedule, just, move that over.
Most definitely.
Okay. The building zoning permit, I don't think we usually talk about unless anyone has any questions about it.
Correct.
And then, does anyone have any questions? No. Okay. The Rayview land,
Where's Miss?
that's
also
Michelle.
on close.
Okay.
It's in this, okay.
Oh, so we're going to do that and close and then come back to open. Got it.
Okay. I need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-131 for consideration of bids and consult with our attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor? Closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session. So to finish out the open session, we have the New Salem Elementary School sewer bid. We talked about it earlier in the meeting, so I would need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the New Salem sewer bid and recommend it to the full board next week.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, 3-1. The next one is the Rayview land. And we discussed that in closed session, so I need a motion. We have a offer on the table from a potential buyer.
Your motion would either be to recommend.
Recommended or not recommended, correct.
Recommend to the board or not recommend to the board, or recommend the board reject it or recommend the board accept it.
Okay. Probably better.
I'll make the motion that the full board reject this.
Need a second?
I second it.
All those in favor? Aye. And now our favorite kind of motion. I need a motion to adjourn.
Growing possibilities.
No.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.